Hello, my dear students. Welcome to the class. The topic which we are going to discuss today is a poem, and its name is The Squirrel. You all have seen a squirrel, and you all are aware that what kind of a creature it is, what color does it have, what are its activities. We all have seen it. So, this poem is written by Mildred Bowers Armstrong, and in this poem the poet is telling us about the nature of squirrel only. So this poem also conveys that this poet is quite nature loving also, and he enjoys nature too much, and he finds squirrel quite annoying creature also, but in spite of it, it's loving and it's good to see it doing different kinds of activities. Okay, so let us start with the summary. I'll read out the stanza for you, okay, and then I'll explain the same stanza to you. He wore a question mark for tail, an overcoat of grey. He sat up straight to eat a nut. He liked to tease and play, and if we ran around his tree, he went the other way. The poet saw a squirrel sitting on a tree and eating nuts. Okay, so the poet must have seen a squirrel. What was the squirrel doing at the time? It was sitting on a tree and eating nuts. Fine. So its tail was raised upwards with the tip pointing downwards. In what position was the squirrel sitting? It was sitting in upward direction. Okay, it was raised upwards with tip pointing downwards. The tail was in the upward direction and its tip was falling downwards. Thus the tail seemed to be making a question mark. So the squirrel was sitting in such a position that its tail was straight from the middle and its tip was falling down, and it's looking like as if it is a question mark. It had a grey coat. It was so loose that the poet calls it an overcoat. Okay, so the color of the squirrel, you all know that it's grey, and that's why the poet is saying that the squirrel was wearing a coat, a fur of grey color, but it was so loose, so that's why the poet calls that coat an overcoat. Okay, in order to eat a nut, it was sitting straight. He sat up straight to eat a nut. So in order to eat a nut, the squirrel was sitting in a straight position. He liked to tease and play. Means you all know that squirrel is funny little animal that likes to play with human beings. Okay, so that's why the poet has called the squirrel a funny little animal who likes to tease and play with human beings. If human beings ran around his tree, the squirrel wouldn't be frightened. So this squirrel is not afraid of human beings. Whenever human beings try to move towards his tree, it always try to play with the human beings. It would like to tease and play. To do so, it would also run round the tree, but from the opposite side. Okay, so this was the summary. We are over with the summary, so you all can see that in all these lines the nature, the activities of squirrel are being explained here. Okay, so now we will move on towards the book exercises. So working with the poem. So question number 1 is, why does the poet say the squirrel wore a question mark for tail? Okay, and you have to describe its tail as well. No need to draw, or you can look for the picture of a squirrel online as well, or in any of the books. Okay, no need to draw a picture of squirrel. So the poet said that the squirrel wore a question mark for a tail because its tail is twisted, appearing like a question mark, because the tail of the squirrel was bent, was twisted. That's why It appears as if it is a question mark, and so the poet called the tail of the squirrel a question mark. Now question number 2, do we usually say that an animal wears a tail? What do we say? Okay. We usually say that an animal has a set of given characteristics rather than saying wear. Okay. We never use word wear for animals. The poet, however, uses the word wear to indicate the external characteristic of the squirrel. So the wear word here is used by the poet to show the external qualities of the squirrel. So the dictionary meaning of wear means something of an outer covering, for instance clothes. Okay. Now third, he liked to tease and play. Who is teasing whom and how? So the poet liked to tease and play with the squirrel. Whenever the poet went a little close to the squirrel would run away in the other direction. Okay. So the poet liked to tease and play with the squirrel. How? This way only. The poet went a little close to the squirrel, and whenever the poet went towards the squirrel would run away in the other direction. So in this manner he used to tease the squirrel. Okay. So students, today we have discussed the question answers, and we have done the explanation and reading of this poem, The Squirrel. Tomorrow I am going to forward you the lesson plan, and you please carry on with the question answers and reference to context questions from the lesson plan only. Okay. Meet you tomorrow in the next video. Till then, take care. Have a good time.